this is the best team in the country right now, man.
Yeah.
They're great football players and makes my life pretty easy.
I'd say we play a very physical brand of football.
Hello, welcome back to Division I Rejects. I'm your host, Kobe Manzo. We're back for D1R 217, back in the studio for a show. We haven't been in here for a little bit. It's because we've been so damn busy with the Small School Saturday show, and it has been so much fun. Back to back weeks of bringing you some live shows from campuses across, well, not necessarily across the country, but across the Midwest here in our geographic footprint, coming off a fantastic weekend, repping the Timberwolves from Northwood. They absolutely took care of us down there. Cannot say thank you enough to their crew for bringing us down. An incredible setup, an awesome game. We got Woody behind us now next to the D1R helmet here. Shout out Vices for our D1R helmet. Absolute clean look in the studio tonight. But two great guests joining me on the show, one from the Division III, one from the Division II ranks. First, we'll be joined by Roman Fuller, the quarterback from CSU Pueblo, a guy who has a very strong conversation and argument to be in this Harlan Hill front runner type of deal here in 2025. He picked up a big-time win with that Pueblo squad on the road at Western Colorado this week in a top 10 matchup. We'll talk with Nate Grull later on from Monmouth, the defensive lineman. The Scots, they were rolling against U Chicago. They've been physically dominant inside of that conference. And then tonight, in terms of our breakdown across all three divisions, in Division II, we got a team out in the RMAC that's proposing an $85.5 million stadium and athletic facility overhaul. Definitely stick around for that conversation. We'll also have some top 25 matchups to recap, whether it is the RMAC, the Gulf South, the GMAC. We're all across the board, all across the country in our recaps for today. Had a Division II team land a helicopter at midfield right before a game. Some pretty fun stories there. In Division III, some streaks broken versus longtime foes. Definitely check out some of those that were multiple decades in the making, these wins for these programs. We had 3 automatic qualifiers clinched for Division III football team, guys and teams that have earned their way into the national dance already in 2025. And then we go through and we look at 3 transfers that are currently available in Division III football, guys, for whatever reason, due to some unforeseen circumstances, some top playmakers in D3 football that are currently in the portal looking for their next home. Shout out to our new partners over at AthLinkd. We'll be highlighting some of the transfer portal pieces of the game and their platform, how it can be serviced from different coaches and fans of the game alike. And then in the NAIA scene, we've got some overtime madness in NAIA, some couple trap games to talk about, a new potential number 1 team in the country, crazy as that might sound. And then we also had a player hospitalized but still winning, an absolute football guy that we're going to talk about later when it comes to NAIA. So a lot of really exciting things to talk about on tonight's episode. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you use on YouTube. The bottom of the screen there, little timestamps. Fast forward any part of the video you want and get the hell out of here, or listen to the entire thing. We appreciate you regardless. And finally, to close out the intro here, our friends at Gridiron 1880 are rolling out the Walter Camp Football Fan Vote. Now, everyone will be able to vote for their picks to make the Walter Camp All-American team from D2, D3, and NAI football in 2025. You can check it out at gridiron1880.com/fan-vote. That is gridiron1880.com/fan-vote. You'll be greeted with this screen right here, and this is where you can go to vote for the Walter Camp All-American teams, a cool thing that our partners over at Gridiron 1880 are doing this season. So definitely check in with them, but we got a lot of great stuff planned for tonight's episode. Let's get right into it. Joining the show tonight, he's the signal caller and the Harlan Hill hopeful for the team that has taken the driver's seat in the RMAC, quarterback for the Thunderwolves of CSU Pueblo. It's Roman Fuller. What's going on, brother?
Nothing much, man. How you doing?
Man, a lot's going on. You're lying. You guys had a big-time weekend, big win over a top 10 team in the country. You go on the road, number 6 team in the nation. We'll talk about the comeback in a little bit, but what did you guys and you and the boys prove this weekend, man?
I mean, I don't think we were out to prove anything. I mean, obviously beating Western like that, it's a great win. It's a great team win, especially coming from behind, but they were just the next opponent. You know, every week we're going in thinking about going 1-0, and we came out on top. And it wasn't easy. We didn't make it look easy, but they're a good football team, and yeah, it's a great win.
Gritty wins are still football wins, and especially, for you guys, 21-0 in the second quarter. You guys are the deficit at the wrong end of that equation. The largest comeback victory in program history for the CSU Pueblo squad. What the hell changed?
I mean, not a ton changed. I think that's the biggest part of it is that, like, we knew even when we were down 21-0 that, like, it was still going to be a game, and we knew, what we could do, what we should be doing. And then we just kind of stuck together. No one freaked out, and we went out and did it. I mean, we only had, I want to say, 6 plays and 8 yards in the first quarter on offense. And that's just not us. And then, we hung on the defense there for a little bit. We counted on them to make plays, and then they kept doing it, kept us in, and we came back, fought from behind, and it was awesome.
As a quarterback and someone who, typically, I mean, on offense, face it, the play goes through your hands every step of the way. But when you're on the sideline and it's out of your control and that's taken away from you because, maybe you're not able to sustain some drives, that defense is getting out there for a long time. How do you keep those guys in the right headspace? And how do you keep yourself in the right headspace? Because a lot of times the most frustrating thing is when it's totally out of your control, right? And you're sitting there watching from the sidelines, feels like, there's nothing you can do, so to speak. How do you keep yourself and those guys in the right headspace and keep the faith, so to speak, that, you have the ability to come back and pull off a comeback like you did?
Coach Vihel always does a great job, and everybody on our team really does. We have a really mature team, first of all, emotionally mature. Like, no one really freaked out, nothing like that. And I think we just kept on doing what we could do. When we were on the field, we just took advantage of every play that we had when we were down that big, and then kept chipping away, stayed together.
And a big one late in the game, of course, after the offense got rolling, you guys started to find some rhythm, hit a couple of those long balls that I think we've come accustomed to seeing from you, whether it be a couple of those talented guys on the outside. But you get the field goal block late in the fourth. That had to feel like a very big shift in momentum back to you guys at some points early in the game. I'm sure it just felt like, man, everything possible is not going our way. What was the momentum shift like when one of the guys in the interior got a paw on that thing?
It was a great feeling. It felt like, on the sideline, I'm not sure if it felt like this watching it or anything, but it just felt like that we were going to block it on the sideline. And we went out there and did. And I think we got the ball with 4 minutes left, and then got to shout out the O-line right here. We got the ball 4 minutes left, pretty much just ran the ball the whole drive. We completed one long pass on 3rd and long to keep the drive going, but milked the clock all the way down to the last second, kicked a field goal. And had control for the last 4 minutes of the game, including the 2-minute warning. So that was pretty awesome. Just taking what they give us, running the ball when they know we're going to run the ball.
Yeah,
that was a good.
That's
good
textbook,
way to
right? 4-minute drill,
Yeah.
right? Possess the ball, dry clock, and just move the chains. And you do that at a good clip. Now, this team, not to say you're not capable of it because we've just seen it this weekend, but maybe not what we expected or we had originally associated with this squad as a team that was ready to grind down clock in a 4-minute drill. How do you feel like that front five and that group really stepped up to the task there when, like you said, it might be a little bit easier to run the ball when you're throwing out to some of these deep threats, these dogs that you've got on the outside. Yeah. But when everyone and their brother knows that you're running the ball between the tackles, all of a sudden that box gets pretty tight.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's just a huge testament to those 5 guys up front and our running backs, and our tight ends even. We were in 12 personnel a lot of that last drive.
Yeah. Yep.
And just outworked them right there. They got a really good front 7. They got a really good box, and I feel like throughout the game we kind of wore them down just with running our inside zone stuff that we do all the time. And at the end just found a way.
The nature of those zone scheme, right? Like that's you run it, and eventually one of them hits. Whether it's a backdoor or whether you find something on the front side with those talented backs, one of those is bound to hit eventually. You wear those teams down. You talk about the maturity of this team. Is that front 5, that offensive line, is there a lot of seniority in that group?
There is. We got 2 major vets. Our 2 guards are both 6-year guys, and
that's
we
huge.
got a new. It is. They played a lot of ball. They've played a lot of different positions too. So that's big, just knowing where everybody needs to go. And both of our tackles, one of them's a senior, and one of them, Tyler Etheridge, is a junior, and they're both just beasts, man. They're great football players, and makes my life pretty easy.
I love that. That is, that's scary. You talk about guys who have played a lot of football, a lot of meaningful football too, whether it be in the RMAC or some postseason type stuff. That's a big deal. And I've you'll be the last person to say it, but I can say it, is that you've got the numbers and the winning ability right now to be a front runner for the Harlan Hill this year. And I'm not going to, make you come on and talk about yourself, because I'm sure that's your least favorite deal. But is that something that crosses your mind? And what would it mean to win an award like that, man?
I mean, it would mean a lot to win an award like that, but that's not something that's on my mind,
Sure.
All I try to think about is just breaking down the defense each week, doing my job, getting the ball to the guys who make me look good, and, just doing the usual stuff like that. We had a great win on Saturday, but we were still back in there this morning, breaking down mines, doing what we always do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
100%. This might not be the same Ordigger team that you're used to year in and year out, but
Right.
obviously going on the road to Golden, that's going to be a tough one any year. Now, talking about that offensive side of the ball, what has Reggie brought to this offense after, nearly not being able to suit up in 2025? And, you know what you've come to expect from him, but what kind of blessing is it to have him back on this offense? What has he been able to add in this season?
I mean, having a guy like Reggie out there is pretty special, because if you're going to cover him one-on-one and try to stop our runs, like it's going to go his way, and he's probably going to catch it. And a lot of teams have just double covered him, or tried to double cover him, I should say. It doesn't always work. And then they just leave our other guys who are also dogs, our other outside receivers and inside receivers, just one-on-one themselves. And then I just feel like we got a lot of talent in our offense, and it's hard to stop it all.
It is, man. And he wasn't, you talk about Reggie, because he is kind of one of the faces that's become to associate with this program, especially after the career year that he had last year. But he wasn't even the quote-unquote top guy Saturday. Talk about Marcellus and what he's been able to do to really, I guess, cement himself, is the best way of saying it, as a certified playmaker on this 11 on offense.
Yeah, it's awesome to see a guy like Selly to come out. He's one of my favorite dudes on the team. Always got a smile on his face,
Okay.
Stuff like that. But I mean, he can really fly. And a lot of teams that we've been playing this year have just been playing real far back on him, not letting him run. And then you got a couple opportunities this week to just run by guys, and he sure did that. You ever
think with a guy like that, like how fun would it be to get just a snap or some type of way to get around the rule book and give him the CFL type motion where he gets a head start going towards the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, I don't think that would be super fair. Yeah.
There's a couple guys like that, and you're like, man, I would just love to see a couple snaps like that. What would a DB even do, right? Like, never have seen that before. You just get full speed off the line.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it in the CFL. It's crazy.
That is wild. But kind of alluded to it earlier, you're back on the road at Mines, and then there's no break, right? You're taking on a team in Shadron that is a tough team to close out the year. I don't know if that's something a lot of people maybe expected, but that team, top 25 right now, they, of course, get the challenge that is Western this week. What's the mindset moving forward for this CSU Pueblo group, Flo?
We knew kind of after our bye week that we had 3 of our toughest games of the year going into the playoffs. And, we're down for the challenge. We're not focused on Shadron just yet, but, we took care of Western on the first week, and now we're planning on going up there to Denver, taking care of Mines, and then doing the same thing again, rolling into the playoffs.
Yes, sir. It's going to be a tested team, though, right? Obviously, got to go take care of business one week at a time. But, again, that's for me to say and for you to just, listen and nod. But, this is a team that going into playoffs, assuming, again, you take care of business and earn the right potentially to even have some home games and bring some squads out there to the Thunder Bowl. Right. But it's going to be a tested squad, right? A battle-tested squad that has endured a lot. And I think that's not something that a lot of teams in the country can say, man. So all I got for you tonight. Really excited to continue following along with you guys. The offense is fun to watch. We knew that, but we've also come to find out that the rest of this team's pretty damn good too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Roman. I appreciate you, man. Have a good rest of your night.
Yes, sir. You too. Great to meet you.
Starting things off in Division II football, the fellas repping Northwood today after a great visit down for Small School Saturday. And boys, got a lot of good Division II football to talk about. We'll get to Northwood and Findlay later on, but first, we got playoff rankings, like legit playoff rankings. Last week, it was just an alphabetical list of 10 teams in every region that were under consideration, quote unquote, to be in the dance. This week, we get actual numbers. Super regions 1 through 4 and their rankings. The top 8 teams, of course, in each will make it into the playoff, the expansion from 28 to 32 teams. You can see the list. I'm not going to go ahead and read all, 32 teams off right away, but guys, you got to take a look at the graphic. What jumps out to you right away? What teams were you surprised by? Or maybe what teams, their absence was a little bit of a shock?
Well, I'm taking a look at that bottom fourth division there, and if that's how this shakes out, that quadrant is stacked. Harding, Pueblo, Western Colorado, who just had a great game over the weekend. Pittsburgh State, absolutely stacked. But, that automatic bid comes into play. I'm looking at a team like Assumption, dude, who just had a great game over the weekend against Southern. Quarterback played really well. And, yeah, that's what I'm looking at that right now, an absolutely stacked bottom quadrant there if this is how it all shakes out.
And usually the Greyhounds, Assumption, they're a team that would have maybe relied on that automatic bid or the earned access, as we've come to know it in Division II football, which has gone out the window now in terms of playoff selection. They typically in the past would have had to rely on that because of maybe a lack of strength of schedule or struggling to win the big game, quote unquote. Dude, they've played themselves into a position where they're, I'm not going to go ahead and say they're in no matter what. They still got to go ahead and take care of business. Still a couple weeks to handle here. But you look at right now, they're the fourth team in Super Region number 1.
Yeah.
AQ or otherwise, this is a team that has earned their way into the dance in 2025. That's pretty encouraging if you're a fan of the NE10.
Oh, yeah. Not seeing Central Oklahoma on here. That was a team we had at the beginning of the year I thought was going to be a national championship contender. They are not anymore. But so that's the one thing that stuck out to me.
Well, they go beat Pittsburgh State, and then the MIAA does MIAA things, right? And we'll talk about the team that took them down this last week. But it's been so back and forth in that conference. And Pittsburgh State is a team that started 0-2 to start 2025, and then they have just rolled ever since, and they have turned into a totally different team from the first couple weeks that we saw. And again, they weren't blown out in those first couple weeks of the season, still showed a lot of promise, but Barry and company, that offense has certainly settled down. Coach Anthony has a really strong identity in that Gorilla squad, and it helps that they've played a lot of those games in the jungle. This last week was their last in the jungle, and now we've got a game here. We won't look too far ahead, but Northwest, Pittsburgh State, that last game here at November 15th down in Kansas City, that's going to be, I mean, it was already going to be a big one, but we're talking about an MIAA championship type of environment.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe, the one I wanted to touch on was obviously we had boots on the ground at the Northwood Findlay game. They're very high on Findlay, right? Number 2 in Region 3. And then also Ashland. So, like, they're high on the GMAC this year. And I believe I saw Northwood was ranked 10th. So, like, you're looking at 3 GMAC teams when you're usually looking at 3 GLIAC teams in that, region. But now it's like 3 GMAC teams. So the NCAA is very high in the GMAC this year. And the winner of that Ashland-Findlay game is setting themselves up for a very, very nice seed.
That is going to be a big-time contest. And Ashland, I won't lie to you, like, they've played some really good football. Obviously, they already got a statement win over Northwood on the year. They play Findlay, of course, this coming week for what is one of the bigger games in all of Division II football. But they haven't really done it in explosive fashion. You look back, and we'll talk a little bit about the Walsh game this week. They, I guess for lack of a better term, the Eagles kind of play with their food a little bit with the Cavs. Didn't really take care of business like some people expected, but still a very good football team. Findlay very much in the same boat of not every win has been pretty, but they've won at a very consistent clip. And like you said, Ferris State, the only team in playoff consideration there, Grand Valley State, maybe one of the most notable that's been left off the list. And you can kind of see why. You look at some of the other teams that may be surprising in terms of positioning. How about Albany State at the number 2 spot in Super Region 2, and Benedict right there with them after a game that featured both those guys very recently, and then Shadron State at the number 7 spot in Super Region 4. The Eagles have really shown up this year. That offense has been really fun to follow along with. And again, you're making way in the toughest super region in Division II football right now. I think that's pretty easy to say that with the restructuring, I think the crown has been passed from SR3 to SR4.
Are you surprised, even though they lost this past weekend, that Delta State isn't on here?
I was thinking about that a little bit. And I actually don't know. I don't know what exactly to think of that. You see a name up there in Kentucky State, and there's maybe some question marks. Pembroke has obviously had a solid year. Wingate with some statement wins. Even though Wingate, we'll talk about them in a little bit, they barely survived a Lenore Rhine team that has been pretty lackluster in 2025. There's so many random bits and ends, but that top 4 of the second super region feels pretty solidified. I think after that, a lot can still shake out in the next couple weeks. I think 5 through 8 in super region number 2 is very much still up for grabs. But I guess we shall see. But that's a look at the playoff picture as it stands right now for Division II football. Still have a couple more weeks, of course, until all of that is finalized. And, fellas, let's start things off with that Delta State loss, Drew. West Florida, the Argos, they handle business on the road. 51-38 win over Delta State. And this West Florida team, man, I did not make the mistake of picking against the Argos this week on the show. I'm very glad I did not, because this offense under Marcus Stokes under center has been really fun to watch, but the defense also gets after it. Coach Mello and that defensive line unit, that front seven for them defensively have been a presence all year. But Stokes had a solid day again, not a lightning-type performance, 200 yards passing, 1 touchdown through the air. He added 2 on the ground, though, fellas, 143 yards for the quarterback out of West Florida. That's an all-purpose type performance that, I mean, we've seen him be very athletic out of the pocket. I don't know if we've seen him average almost 15 yards a pop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Marcus Stokes, Cade talked about it this past weekend, was supposed to have a big day.
Super fit.
And you know, what idiot picked against West Florida, I don't know.
I was going to say it.
At the end of the day, right, that's, you know, different story for a different day. I will say, though, you know, looking at this box score, you can't complete 6 passes and expect to win a football game. 6 of 25 on the day for Garrett Ames. Not a really good showing for Delta State. However, listen to this stat line. Of those 6 passes, he had 232 yards passing.
Yeah.
Because Curtis Reardon had 4 receptions for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
That's Randy Moss type of performance. The memes they all talk about. Like, talk about having a big day, but you can't expect one guy to carry the entire load for 22 positions on the field. Yeah, tough one for Delta State for sure.
Yeah, I love seeing them get Stokes involved more intentionally in the run game with some of these options where he's pulling it and making that choice, making that decision. That was one of his scores on the ground, was that way. And then the Argos defensive secondary stepped up too, big-time interception, get up there and jump a pass in the flat and get the ball back for that offense. And you still let up 38 points, but special teams is a big part of it too. They go ahead and they recover a fumble, turn that like a missed snap, so to speak, on the punt, turn that into a touchdown. And if you guys hear the announcer on the broadcast, it's in our clip for the Team of the Week award. The announcer, you can hear him, he's like, just a terrible situation. West Florida picks it up, touchdown. And you hear in the background, he slams the desk. It's flow stuff, so I'm not going to show it on here, but you got to go listen to it. It is really funny, like going through and watching some of those clips when you get like the home announcer just pissed off that he's got to call a touchdown for the other team. I love it.
And you know what? This West Florida team, this is their 3rd win of the season over a top 25 opponent, which is huge. Yeah. You know, they didn't just cruise through an easy schedule. This is a true 9-0 team. They're tested. They can hit you. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. And they have a good defense. This is going to be a scary team to watch out for the playoffs.
100%. That's going to be Pensacola is going to be a fun spot for playoff football. And Delta State, the only other loss this team has is to that UNC Pembroke team, which we saw was at number 8 in those Super Region number 2 rankings. They lost by 4 to the Braves back in September. So, you know, still some football to be played. And what's nice for Delta State is that you look at their next 2 games of the season. You're at Valdosta next week for a big-time 3 o'clock kick, and then you go and play Kentucky State, who's at number 6 in the Super Region 2 ranking. So you've got 2 big-time games and 2 opportunities for the Statesmen to go prove it the last couple of weeks. But Coach Nobles and company down there for West Florida, they got to be really, really pumped with the product of football I think they got going on right now, guys.
For sure.
100%. Well, we'll move forward then in terms of Division II, guys, and look to another game that I believe we previewed on the show, of course. And let's talk about this CSU Pueblo team. They go on the road to Gunnison, take on Western Colorado, 24-21 win for the Thunderwolves. They come back with the W over the number 6 team in the country, a really statement win for the CSU P squad. And we've got Roman Foa, the quarterback, joining us on the show tonight, so I talked with him about a lot of that, and it would already happened at this point in the episode. But initial reactions from this one and a big top 10 type matchup atmosphere.
Yeah, initial reactions is, man, I sucked at picking teams this weekend. I will say, like, I don't know what was in the water with a couple of these receivers. Marcellus Honeycutt Jr., 3 receptions for 144 and a touchdown. Like, big play after big play. This is a huge win, though. Kobe, we talked about it on the road that we were all kind of high on Western Colorado. thinking that they were going to take care of business. But it was a game, right? They had it in the hands. I mean, it's 21-7 at halftime, and you get outscored 17-0 in the second half. Like, that one has just got to be an absolute gut punch of a loss, right? Where do they go from here? I mean, you just bounce back the next week, right? Like, we just looked at the regions. They're still a good team, but I think this says a lot about the resiliency of CSU Pueblo. To be down 17 or 7-21.
It was 21-0 at one point.
Yeah, okay. I was looking at halftime.
Yep.
So to be down 21-0 even more, and then go 24 unanswered, that says a lot about your program.
Yep, 100%.
Well, Western Colorado's got Chadron State next week. That's going to be a good game as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a sleeper. Maybe not one that you would have identified early on as you see one of those deep touchdown passes, and that's what's fun about this CSU Pueblo offense. You know about Roman Fuller. You know about Retzlaff on the outside, some of the weapons they have offensively. They get it done with some deep balls down the sideline like this, but they can also get you and gash you between the tackles. I think they're pretty dynamic and flexible in that sense. Their streak of RMAC wins now, 23 consecutive games winning inside of the conference. That's hard to do in any conference. This team's done obviously a very good job of that. 14 straight road wins for the Thunderwolves. That is the longest active conference and road win streaks in Division II football, boys.
That's an impressive stat. It's one of those things too where, you know, even if it's not Division I, NFL, whatever it is, it's hard to win on the road at any level. It's hard to win on the road in high school basketball, right? Like, to do what they're doing on the road and against good teams like Western Colorado, that's a credit to the head coach, but it's also a credit to the players for buying in.
100%. And that, big, I'm not going to say unsung play, but one of the big guys interior for a field goal late in the game, fourth quarter, goes up and gets a mid on it and blocks it from Western Colorado. And that was, you see the final score, like that's a big time play in this one. And this one, you talk about it being able to bounce back for the pack. Was really big in this. So big time win for CSU Pueblo. Again, that only loss was to Fort Hays State early in the year, and they've certainly rebounded in a big way. But we had a big one in the GMAC. We were down there. We saw this one in person. Findlay, they come out on top. Kings in the North, Drew.
Yeah.
Can we say too, like, shout out Northwood, but Kings in the North, I mean, what are we talking about? We're in Midland.
I think it's just because I think Northwood's the most northern team in the GMAC.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. If you really think about it from like a geographical standpoint. They also have North in the name. That kind of gives it away. But at the same time, I don't think anybody when they beat Northwestern is saying Kings of the North. You know what I mean? It's definitely because whoever was watching that is definitely a Game of Thrones fan. And when I threw the Game of Thrones reference out, they were a little heated. And it is what it is, right? Credit to Findlay. This was, I wouldn't say any type of like beatdown. Like, we were there. Like, it was neck and neck for a while, but you could start to tell that Findlay just kept running and running and running and running. And we talked about it all day across all these levels of football, whether it was NAIA, D3, D2. I said it, run the damn ball, run the damn ball, run the damn ball. And the team that was able to run the damn ball and on Saturday was Findlay, right? Like, Northwood just could not get anything going offensively. They only had 64 yards rushing to Findlay's 215. That's a huge difference right there. But Northwood also turned the ball over, and we talked about it, Kobe, multiple times. Oh, they don't turn the ball over. They don't turn the ball over. Well, first
the best in Division II football, right? And then we totally jinxed the shit out of them.
They turn the ball over with a fumble. They turn the ball over with a punt return that they drop, and then like the snapper is like it was just all over the place. Almost looked like the Lions yesterday, where it's like you did everything in order to lose.
Yeah, and we talked about the rushing yards. Jaden Farmer, dude. I mean, kudos to Northwood's defense. They've had some great games so far this year. They got to figure out you cannot tackle a back like that by grabbing his shoulders. I mean, at some point, this is a guy that's got a good amount of LBs behind him, and when he comes through that hole, it takes more than one guy to bring him down, and you can't tackle him without good form, because that guy was rumbling all over them. Even with missing, I think, most of the second half, like, he still had such an impact in that game. And then we talked with Wyral post-game, the captain on that defense. That defense is one of the most physical that I've seen. And we watched Minnesota State and Duluth in person. That defense from Finley is one of the most physical that I've seen. They were flying around and they were cracking.
And it didn't even matter if it was Jaden Farmer or not. Christian Davis was having his day too.
He was.
Right? Like, he was doing well. I think a huge part, obviously you can't see in the stat sheet, Tim, but Northwood tried to go and deep ball after deep ball after deep ball. And they were so close to completing like three or four of them to the Booz brothers, one of them to Jake Townsend, who had a remarkable touchdown. Kobe got it live during the game, which was really cool. But
oh yeah, that clip is nuts. I'll have to pull it up.
Three or four of those connect. This is a completely different game. But at the end of the day, you're always 3 to 4 plays away from being the winner or the loser. And in this case, they were the loser. Credit to Finley and credit to Coach Allen, correct?
Yep. Corey Allen.
Obviously, Coach B made me want to run through a wall.
Yeah, that moment was incredible.
Coach Allen, I've been seeing a lot of stuff post game. My phone's definitely listening to me. He's popping up on my Instagram reels now, and I'm like, all right, I could see why his team gets behind him even more now.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, that was a very good game. Definitely one that lived up to the hype in terms of what we had come to expect from those two teams, fellas. But we'll keep moving. Let's get away from some of the game recaps. We have some big-time news from New Mexico Highlands. Let's go back out to the RMAC. This is one that's, I think, pretty exciting, boys. What you're looking at here, for those watching on YouTube, is a proposed massive addition and announcement for this team, $85.5 million. That is what the proposed number is to go towards a facility's complete overhaul and rework for Highlands. And I think the biggest misconception is like, no, they don't have all this money already. The renders and stuff are all supposed to get people excited and get this money going. And this project is not like $85.5 million all or nothing. It certainly gets broken down into phases, but we'll talk about it a little bit here, guys. And what's interesting, I got a quote from their head coach over there at Highlands. His name is Kurt Tafasau. He said that he knew what he was getting into the minute he accepted the job. He said, quote, "Sometimes it feels like we're trying to make something out of nothing. That's the challenge of being here, knowing it takes more than you got to make it a success." So dealing with when I do a little bit of research and a little bit of reading, what seems to be, I've never seen it in person, some very outdated facilities, some very outdated infrastructure out there for a team that has had a pretty solid resurgence ever since he has taken the lead. Obviously, the freshman running back, Jeffrey Jones, and some other key pieces on that offense and the team in general have made for this to be a pretty exciting season. But they are now trying to capitalize on that success and put forth some really big changes to their campus and their athletic facilities. I showed the photo of the kind of stadium deal right there. The $85.5 million athletics master plan would not only transform Highlands into an NCAA Division II gem, but would, if approved and funded almost entirely by the state, become the single largest athletics expenditure in New Mexico history. That is in the history of the state. This is a look at one of the proposed locker room type renders inside the facility. And boys, I got the link there. Definitely pull that up and take a look. It looks outrageous. And again, these are all renders to try and get people excited and to hand over their wallets and their debit cards, their credit cards. But this is something fun to talk about. The university, they hired Ampere Sports Design to create what is they're calling a comprehensive diagnostic, definitely their words, that would essentially rebuild their football, softball, and baseball facilities while renovating its basketball arena, the field house, and the Stu Clark Center that serves as the athletic hub. So this is very much not just a football renovation. This is a holistic overhaul for everything New Mexico Highlands. And here's a look at one of the renders that they released for the softball stadium as well. The football stadium is phase one, other sports to follow if they get the proposed state funding. So it sounds like, guys, they've got the funding almost already secured for phase one that would start work on the football field with a scoreboard that apparently doesn't even work right now, a grandstand that is in dire need of some renovation. And then from there, I guess they figure out how much money they can get and move on.
Yeah, I mean, like I've seen, schools transform overnight by just putting a little bit of money into facilities, because that gets you recruits, that gets more people going to the game. And it's huge right now because that's what kids care about. That's what players care about. When they go to the stadium, they care about what the locker room looks like. They care about the facilities. That's a real thing. So putting that money into the facilities, and not just football, an entire facelift of all sports. I mean, if they can get the money, that's great. I do want to know how much of that $85 million is going into the giant cowboy statue that's in the front. It looks about 20 feet high.
I was wondering if you noticed that. I was wondering if you see that in the bottom, like kind of bottom right corner.
Yeah. I want to know what the percentage is of that going, because that might not need to be there, but the rest of the stuff looks pretty sweet. But I just want to know the answer to that.
Allegedly, reading through some of the articles, guys, it sounds like the current setup for their football stadium, they have turf there, and it's supposed to house their soccer team as well, but the turf is too close to the edge of the track, and soccer, the playing surface apparently is not good enough for soccer, or not big enough, so their soccer team, from what I can understand, might not even be able to play there currently.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what, Kobe, when did you say like estimated completion is?
So that's the thing, is they've divvied it up into these phases. Now, phase 1, assuming they move forward with this and they have a lot of the money put away already, that could be ready by the 2026 season opener, is what I saw. So that was maybe not some of the bigger facelift type things, but some improvements and changes to the football facility, and then they have multiple phases from there on out. I didn't really see a timeline for some of the other ones.
I will say Tim is completely correct on the simple fact of kids these days. It's a lot of
these days.
I'm a grown ass man at 23 apparently these days. That's what everyone keeps telling me. But like high school kids these days, they're very much of like, all right, like what can you offer me, right? And I think a lot of it is to do with like the NIL stuff. Obviously, at the Division II level, you're not necessarily dealing with NIL, but you are going to be dealing with kids that are like, well, what type of athletic department do you have? What's the strength room looking like? What's the football field looking like? So universities that are not necessarily the most, what would the word be, competitive universities, a way to set yourself apart would be to like get certain things in your football program, whether it be an indoor facility, whether it be an up-to-date weight room or new turf or new stadium. So something that like allows you to have like a selling point to now, okay, once we get these recruits in because we got these really cool things, now we can build a program, right? So it is like, that's like, I think a huge thing for teams, whether you are successful or you're not successful, of building your brand, and part of your brand is where you're located and what it looks like.
Yeah, and part of it too, part of the proposed plan for this New Mexico Highlands deal was, and it was kind of at the bookend of it, they was listed as more of a wish than a need, but was a new indoor facility being constructed for the use of their football and other athletic teams on campus. I think that was kind of on the bottom of their wish list. It was a little bit more of a reach, I think, but there's definitely a couple reaches there, fellas. But we'll talk about now, we've got a D2 product that just signed in the CFL in British Columbia with the Lions, and he's coming from Carson, Newman. It's Antonio Wimbush. He graduated in 2019, so not maybe a more recent graduate, but someone who has stuck the course, played a lot of professional football at different levels, and now is getting his shot in the CFL. Most recently, he was in the Indoor Football League. He was a Special Teams Player of the Year. Third pro football stop for the former All-American at Carson Newman. Major Williams, a name that might ring a bell. He graduated just last year, I believe, from Carson Newman. He just signed with Winnipeg, the Blue Bombers, earlier this month. That's another big-time, more recent Eagle product now in the pros. But Antonio, back to him, he became just the third member of Carson Newman to join the 4,000 rushing yard club in his senior year. He was also the Mayo Clinic Comeback Player of the Year after returning from an ACL tear his sophomore season. So that one certainly hits home. But shout out to Antonio, man. That's pretty awesome. Graduate in 2019, you go through COVID, you stick the course, you play a lot of football that, let's be honest, a lot of people wouldn't be able to grind out the indoor football league for that long. He stays the course and does some really good things in that league, and now has earned himself an opportunity in the CFL, which is certainly a step up.
Good for him, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. Very neat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Make sure we acknowledge that.
Kobe, one question. What does special teams look like in indoor football? Do you know?
That's a really good question, because they don't have like kickoffs per se, but they do have like a kick return element. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't want to be speaking out of my you-know-what here, but I almost want to say someone just like throws the ball deep and they do like a return.
I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, it's
so I'd have to go back and actually look at it, but I do know there is definitely a return and a special teams component to the Indoor Football League. I just couldn't tell you exactly the last time that I had seen it, maybe necessarily on video.
Do you guys used to have the indoor football video game?
No, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
That game was awesome. That game was so sick.
That is pretty sweet. Let's go to more of a fun, I think kind of more of a fun story. Northeastern State. They landed a helicopter at midfield, boys. Just kind of a wild one. I thought it would be kind of fun to touch on here. This is a look at the helicopter landing at midfield down there in Oklahoma. And they've got a couple things you'll notice. One is the game ball for their homecoming matchup. And then the other is the President's Cup trophy. We talked about that Central Oklahoma team, Tim. They just got beat by this Riverhawks squad. That's it right there. The President's Cup goes to what they call the best team, the best program in Oklahoma. That's a big deal for Coach Iverini and company down there. And we had a chance to have him on the show a while back. It was good to talk with him and to see that the changes and everything that he talked about, it's really starting to come to fruition down there, which is really sweet. This is the first winning season for the Riverhawks in a long time. We'll talk about that in just a second. But I think what's good to note is that he's doing a lot of the little things, I say it with air quotes, the little things that really elevate the student-athlete experience for these players down there. You take a look at this video. This is their like homecoming walk type of deal. And a lot of teams have tried to emulate what Pittsburgh State and these other big-time programs have done with the Gorilla Walk and respectively. And it might not look like much, fellas, but small things like this. I know, Drew, you and I had commented on the atmosphere and the improvements at Northwood when we were down there. This does a lot to elevate the student-athlete experience and make these guys feel big time, put them up on that stage.
Yeah, that AD is trying, man. I love the effort that he's putting into it. I wish every athletic director had that type of mentality, you know. I will say the helicopter and the trophy, that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. That is sick.
That's a lot of coordinating, man. Like to get that sorted.
That is insane logistics.
That's a real undertaking, for real.
That is cool, man. Shouts out to that guy and shouts out to that program.
Yeah, Cole, back to what you're talking about. I think a huge thing, right? Like we can call a spade a spade. Some of these small school programs, right, like don't get the love that they necessarily deserve. And some of these players, whether it be D2, NAIA, D3, right, like we all understand that, you know, ESPN might not be coming to the game, or some kids are going far away to go to school to chase that opportunity, right? So any type of thing that allows, you know, athletes to have an experience where it's enhanced, to where, you know, you're doing little things to get community involved, you're doing little things to where people are showing up to the games, caring about it more, is really like fulfilling, right? Yeah. And I think it's really cool that the university has done that, because I'm sure that we've all been at a game where it just feels like, man, literally nobody cares outside of the people in this locker room.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's one thing that they do it, it's another that they back it up and they have the on-the-field results. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you they've played the toughest strength of schedule in all of D2 football, but what I will tell you is that they're 6-3. That's the first winning season that they've clinched since 2011. For this program. This turnaround for a coach and company down there has certainly been one to follow along with, and they're in an interesting spot right now. I do believe they're an independent, not necessarily associated with any specific conference, so you know, putting together a schedule, I'm sure, is a challenge in itself, but it's been fun to follow along with them. Their social media presence, it makes it very easy to see what's going on down there with this squad, but certainly thought we would give them their flowers on this episode, because that's been fun to keep up with these guys. But let's talk about some other impressive wins for D2 football teams across the country. Let's start with East Central, quietly putting together a very solid season inside of the GAC, and it's of course going to be overshadowed by Harding, who beat them probably by 60 points and shut them out earlier in the season, but not to be overshadowed, East Central, they just beat Southern Arkansas by 22 points this week. That's a win over a Mule Rider team that's been kind of flirting with the top 25. That's a very, very good win. You also bring into the mix wins over Ouachita, Arkansas Tech, your Wonder Boys, Drew. They beat them this year. And to me, that it just haven't been consistent enough. You lost to Southern Nazarene, Southwestern Oklahoma State. It's been a little bit up and down for this squad, but they're showing a ton of promise in winning some games that I don't think a lot of people expected East Central to be in just a year ago.
Yeah, first off, as East Central fluke game against Arkansas Tech Wonder Boys. This is huge for them, right? Like we all were talking about, even on the show when I was cutting a promo about the Wonder Boys. Like Harding is the big dog, right? So it's just like it's good for another program, whether it be East Central, Ouachita Baptist, whoever it is, to like rack some wins up to where it's like, all right, now we're competing. Yeah. If we all of a sudden were to, not going to, as someone in the comments this past weekend when I said could, meant that I was saying they were, which I did not. But if you were to all of a sudden upset a Harding or a team on that level, like you're catapulting your program, right?
Yeah.
Like it's stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately for them, I think the gap between Harding and the rest of the conference has not been wider
Oh,
in the last like
completely.
5 years. It is, and I know you're not. I know you're not getting at that, but it's just see what Harding has done with these teams.
Jake W. for some odd reason thinks I am. So whoever
What
Jake
Harding
W
has
is,
done to some of these teams, the Washita, the Henderson, who are typically we associate with the upper tier of this conference, teams like East Central and Arkansas Tech that are having respectable years in both their own rights. Then there's those kind of 4 type of teams, and then there's Harding. Now you can't go off the screen here. It's unreal how they've been able to step up, and we haven't talked a lot about them because they've just been so dominant. But keep going on the list here. Nebraska Kearney, they beat Central Oklahoma, Tim, 35-24, another loss for the Bronchos. That was back-to-back losses the last 2 weeks for the Lopers. They bounced back in a big way. They were down 17-0 early on, come back for a big-time win over UCO.
Stone Wilson with 4 tuds. Carrying the rock. Love that name.
4 tuds, dude. That is massive. How about Valdosta State defending Titletown, 45-35 over West Alabama. The Tigers, West Alabama, I mean, they folded the last couple of weeks. This team has shown a lot of promise, and they just haven't been able to step up in some of these big Gulf South type games.
We just talked about how they lost last. Who was it to? We were talking about what they played before the Blazers, Cove. We just talked about it on the show.
I want to say it was they lost to West Florida in a really competitive matchup, but the other loss was to Delta. Yes.
State. Yeah. So
their third loss in a row, all of them in Gulf South play.
That's what I'm just saying. Like, what is going on? Like,
you also, though, you look at the margin of loss, so to speak, for this West Florida team. And again, there's no moral victories in the Gulf South, especially when you're 0-3 in conference play. You lost to West Florida, who's arguably one of the best teams in the country. I mean, you can make a legit case that West Florida is like a top 1 or 2 team in the country right now, the way they're playing. They're ranked at number 3 behind Harding and Ferris, but you lose to them by 7. That's a 1-score game. You lost against Delta State, top 25 team, by 3 points. You lost to Valdosta by 10, which is kind of the toughest to stomach of the 3. But when you're talking about the last 3 weeks, they've lost by a combined 20 points. It's tough.
Yeah, but when you are the type of program that they are, you're expecting to at least win 1, 2, maybe all of them, but specifically 1 or 2 of those. Like, you can't go 0-3 on that stretch.
Yeah, Blazers in this one, though, over West Alabama. They're up 24-7 going into the half. There was not a single touchdown, field goal otherwise scored in the third quarter, and then the offenses both exploded in the fourth and gave us kind of that bigger score. There was that fumble recovery in the fourth with led to a touchdown in the final 2 minutes to seal the deal. And for Valdosta, it's a big win for them. They've moved on from Harris Boyd, the former Memphis transfer that came over and followed Coach Craig from Memphis. He's been benched in favor of Jamison Holcomb, the junior from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, who has been balling for them, doing a pretty solid job. Obviously, he seems to have breathed a little life into this Valdosta State team. And then finally, we got Central Washington. They took down Angelo State in a top 25 Lone Star battle team that is still yet to lose to a Division II team, guys. Their only loss in the year was to Montana, FCS powerhouse.
Yeah, that's crazy. And man, what has happened to this Angelo State team? They're 6-3 now. I didn't see that coming at the beginning of the year. They looked like they were going up to be a top 5 team in the country, and they kind of just fell off the rails towards the end of the season. So it's tough to see them, in this type of position this late in the year.
Central Washington poised for quite the playoff run, especially if they're going to drag some people out there to Washington and play on their home field. But we've seen the Wildcats travel and play very good football on the road. I go back to a game against Western Colorado in Gunnison very recently in the last couple of years that they pulled out a victory. And this is a team that has played very well on the road. But again, if you got to drag a team out there to Washington to play in the playoffs in November or going into December, that's where things could get a little sticky. This second top 25 win for this CWU team. They got up 21-0. Didn't really look back. But other scores from around the country, guys. We've got Kutztown team in the PSAC that we have talked very little about. Again, because they have been so dominant that there hasn't really been many quality games to discuss. This one, no exception. 49-6 over East Stroudsburg, a team that has been kind of down this year in the PSAC that we were very high on heading into 2025. UIndy seems to be really catching stride. Quarterback Gavin Sukup, he is making his case for the Harlan Hill 49-3 win over a Quincy team that has been mediocre at best. But Westchester, they outlast Bloomsburg 46-44 in 3 overtimes. That was a wild one. You had Cal PA beating Frostburg State 31-26 in a kind of cross-conference matchup, which is kind of weird to see at this part of the season. Central Missouri beats Fort Hays State on the road. Wingate survives Lenore Ryan, and West Texas A&M holds on at home over Texas A&M Kingsville, fellas.
Some good games.
That's the quick rundown. Did you guys see the graphic that I linked in there from Wingate?
Well, we just talked about with Wingate, right? Like, they're what were they ranked 4th or 5th in SR2?
Yeah, I think they were at number 5.
Yeah, they keep rolling, right?
Yeah.
Keep it going.
They did, and they put out one of the best graphics I've seen all season.
Kobe, is that your dog?
No, it's not Sarge. Wingate, next time, I'm so serious. This is a call to you guys. Next time you need a good bulldog for a photo, I'm going to put the camera on me here. I got a great English bulldog here in the Manzo house. His name is Sarge. I'll plug him. I can get you some high-quality photos, video, whatever you need. You throw Sarge in a graphic, I'd be eternally grateful. Whatever you guys need, would love to see his handsome mug up in one of these graphics. But yeah, creativity, W creative team here on the Bear Rug. That is freaking awesome.
That's
I like that graphic.
Yeah. Love it. Sweet, boys. Well, I think that's all we've got for today. Big time D2 matches. Really good slate for this weekend, too.
Oh, wait. Shout out Wonder Boys. Take care of business.
Who they have?
They had Southern Nazarene.
That's right. Hey,
And who they got this?
Gotta beat the team you're supposed to beat.
Hey, at the end of the day, let me look real quick. I forgot the score.
I'm finna beat you to it. Watch. They got Oklahoma Baptist.
Come on, man.
It should be a win, but then they got Senior Day against Harding at home.
Hey, but take care of business. 42-17. Oklahoma Baptist win that 7-3. And then Senior Day and band member for a day. What do they get down in Arkansas Tech, man? Like, they got the Wonder Boys and be a band member for a day.
Yeah, I'm not. I have to do a little bit of digging there. I actually don't. I don't know about that, but they've got a guy in Bryson Rowland that's doing some really good things offensively for them. Over 800 yards rushing on the year.
Kobe, when you guys are at Fenway, I'm gonna call in and just shoot another Wonder Boys promo to get them ready, like Michael Irvin. You know what you have to do. Nobody believes. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Nobody believes. He's electric on the sidelines for some of those games, man. He's good, awesome. But sweet. Thank you very much, fellas. Joined the show, started his career at D2 McKendree. Now, though, in his senior year, he is a difference maker on what is a very talented defense for the Fighting Scots of Monmouth. It's Nate Grull. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing all right, but I'll tell you something right now. Game picks, Saturday. We butchered the shit out of those. And I told you, I was like, you know what? Let's switch the mojo up. Let's get a little bit of an underdog pick going. Did not happen. You guys, you took care of business. What do people need to know about this this Scots team, man?
Well, we've got a really good defense. A lot of guys who love playing together. 11 hats to football every play, and I'd say we play a very physical brand of football. Coach Braun knows ball.
Yes, certainly. I concur with the physical brand for sure. I think it was something like 10 tackles behind the line of scrimmage Saturday, something ridiculous.
Yeah, we've got some guys who know how to play. So
100%. And you've got a couple years with this program now. How has your role evolved, and how have you started, obviously, in your senior year to take on a bigger role and some bigger shoes, so to speak, in that defense this year?
Well, last year it started kind of just like learning the program, learning the system. And I was originally I was trying to play linebacker here. So I was trying to make that transition. And I came back to the D-line. It was just best for me, best for the team. And I got to learn behind T-Bake, Tevin Baker. He was a fifth year last year. He was a stud. And he kind of taught me the next level of the game, what I had to do to level up,
Is
kind
that
of
one of
make
those
that jump.
conversations where coach comes to you and says, "Hey, I think this is maybe the best fit for you and the team"?
Yeah, it was kind of a it was best for the team type of thing.
Sure.
And I I don't think I was adapting to the mental side of linebacker very well. And D line, you can just kind of strap it up and go play.
Hell
Don't have
yeah.
to think too much. So I like that aspect of it, you know.
Yeah, I love that, dude. And I love, we were talking about on the drive back. I love the fact that you guys get on and call us out for that, the pick and everything. I just, personally, I love it. I'm like, I think it's cool that, you guys or other teams across the country, because guess what? It's not the first game pick that I'm going to miss. It definitely won't be the last, and I'm going to swing and miss on a lot of them. But I love the fact that we get guys that come on and, like, screenshot it, put it out everywhere. We've been waiting for that. I'm not going to lie. We've been waiting for that. We've had a lot of clean sweeps on these graphics. I love that people are starting to take notice. And even if it is we're us being wrong, I think it's awesome, dude. You guys get something to go and call us out.
Do other people normally do that, or is that like one of the first times that's really happened?
No, I think this week we've seen it start to embrace it a little bit. Finley put out a tweet because 3 of us picked Northwood, like the site game that we were at. And so Finley had put one out about like keeping receipts. Like, I love that, dude. I think it's awesome that people embrace it. And I mean, you, like I told you, like I'm not an expert. Our guys definitely aren't experts. We're kind of here to have fun and provide some fun information. But at the same time, I freaking love it. But for you guys, Saturday, although it wasn't technically a conference championship game, is that how you guys were preparing for Chicago? It kind of feels like that.
Yeah, we prepare every week. It's not about who we're playing. It's about us.
Good
That's
answer.
what we say. Say that every week. So this week was big, yeah. Like it was technically the conference championship, you could say, because they were undefeated. But we treated it just like every other week. Just go in, play our brand of football, and take care of business. That's
Stats
what
kind of back that
Braun
up
was
too,
telling
man.
us from.
Held the Maroons to 5 rushing yards. I mean, that is stupid. That is a ridiculous number. But you guys have done that the last couple of weeks. What was it about the game plan, that scheme defensively, that has allowed you guys to do that in this game, but also the last couple of weeks? You guys have just been stingy, is the understatement of the century, on that defensive line and that front 7.
Well, I think personally we have the best linebacker group in the country. So you can go look at it. We've got Ethan James, Carson Straight, and Gavin Carpenter. 3 of the hardest hitting linebackers I've seen. You can go watch the film. They bring it every week. Us 4 on the D line, me and Ant on the edge. We got Carter. Carter plays a lot on the edge. We got Fogelsong. He comes in, and then Jerry and Landon on the inside. They're all of us. We bring it. So
Yeah.
And
man.
on the outside, like you've got studs out there too. So I just think we stack up pretty well against anybody in the country.
100%. You've shown that. I mean, so far in the season, you've definitely shown that. Now we're getting to the point now where, man, we're forced to talk about you guys, the way you guys have dominated. And some of these games earlier in the year where you're taking care of business against opponents that maybe you're supposed to. If you're Monmouth, you have that reputation. But now you're getting to the point where you're starting to go ahead and go above and beyond. And when you shut out an opponent like Chicago, that's you starting to earn your praise. You talked about the MPI ranking starting to finally earn some recognition there, which for you guys might not be that big of a deal, the MPI, because you're going out this weekend is playing for the outright conference title. That's a big deal. You got Rippin. And what's the message from Coach? How do you guys prepare for this Rippin squad this weekend?
Well, he'll really break it down for us tomorrow, but I'm sure he'll just say pretty similar message to every week. Go take care of business. Show up to work. How we practice is how we're going to play. That's really the number one thing. So just showing up and working all week, not taking any practices off because they might not be as good as other people we've played. We just it's us versus us. So
yeah, man,
we just have to find ways to get better every week. So when it does come playoff time, we're prepared for a better opponent.
And how hungry is this team for playoffs? I mean, it feels like a pretty easy question, and I know the answer, of course, but you look back at the history of this team. This team's played, and you haven't spent maybe your entire career with the Scots, but they've played in some postseason games as of late, but it hasn't been the playoffs, right? It's been the bowl games that have come after the regular season. This team hasn't made the dance since 2019. What separates this squad, and what makes you think, and this squad think, you guys, like you said, match up very well with anyone in the country?
The whole squad, we have a chip on our shoulder. We're like last year, the way our season ended. You saw the way it ended up at Lake Forest. We're pissed off. Like I said, we have a chip on our shoulder. We have a lot to prove. So we just feel like we've been overlooked in a sense, and we can do more than others might think. And it's just about our locker room and our guys. We've got a lot of great football players on our team. I don't know if you've seen Rublik, the way that guy runs the football.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We call him Piss Dog, so that's what they call him.
That's awesome. I like that.
Guy broke the school record with 5 touchdowns. So like offense, defense, you name it. We've got guys everywhere. So
yeah, the record books were broken this weekend for sure. And you talk about offense and defense. It was a 3 phases win. You guys had a block kick for a touchdown too, right?
Yeah, Ethan James. Like I said, we've got guys everywhere. It was opening up the first quarter. It was got him to 4th down.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan broke through, blocked it, and scooped it. I think that's his 3rd touchdown this season.
Yeah, and he's done it in like every different way, right? In terms of interception, fumble recovery, block. It's ridiculous, and it's very impressive that you guys are able to do that in every phase of the game. It's been fun to follow along with. But you talk about that season opener, the loss. That was kind of the toughest maybe competition you had played, of course, that Wartburg team. How do you feel like that maybe set the tone for this season, and how do you guys rebound from that? I know we're going back. It feels like forever ago now at this point in the season, but how do you feel like that set the tone for 2025, and how have the guys responded?
It just showed us that we can compete with the top level competition, because like we're a couple plays away from that game not being a 14-point game. Like a lot of what ifs, and they did win the game. They beat us, but we could compete with them. That showed us kind of where we stand, and I think it gave our guys a confidence in a way. But like I said, no moral victories though. Like we were not happy. We didn't go up there to lose 7-21. We wanted to come out there with the win. So I think we did learn a lot from it. Learned a lot about our team and what we need to work on to compete with ranked teams like that.
Yeah, man. And whether it's the Knights or somebody else, you're going to get another crack at it, right? You go and take care of business this weekend. We're talking about a team that has the potential to, whether it's hosting or going on the road in the playoffs, man, you're going to be playing some meaningful football here in November, and that's just got to be the goal for this squad, right?
Yeah, that's been the goal from fall camp, really since last season. Like we've been working since that Lake Forest loss for right now, like for that U Chicago game. So I think that's why the guys came out the way that they did. Everyone's we're ready to prove ourselves.
One more week inside of conference play, then we get down to it, man. So a lot of big ones. Obviously, like you said, you guys aren't looking ahead towards anything.
We've got a couple left, I think.
Okay, there you go. There you go. In terms of the conference.
Yeah, we've got Ripon, and then we've got Knox left. We've got 2 more home games.
That's right.
And then
Ripon will clinch the conference outright. Then you got the one more after, correct?
Yeah.
There you go. So, thank you on the correction there. I can't. Good.
I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to let you know.
No. You should. Yeah, get me right. Make sure I'm straight here. But I'm excited for you guys, man. It's gonna be fun to follow along with you guys. Obviously, I'll say it like I plan on you guys taking care of freaking business the next couple of weeks, and you're going to be a fun team to follow along with in the playoffs. Obviously, you stay with your deal. You're 1 week at a time, of course. You guys have the right messaging over there, but this squad is is suffocating in all the right ways, playing a physical brand of ball. I'm excited to continue to follow along with you guys, man. That's all I got for you.
Well, thank you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Have a good rest of your night, dude.
Yeah, you too. Appreciate it.
In terms of Division III football, obviously we made the announcement on Saturday during our Small School Saturday show down at Northwood. But, boys, we are going to Fenway freaking Park. And I don't think it's actually set in yet. I don't think it will until we're loading up all the gear into the outfield. We'll be in the middle of what they're calling Fan Fest in the outfield from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. EST on Saturday, November 15th in the outfield in front of the Green Monster in Fenway Park. It's going to be ridiculous, but we made the announcement already. I want to talk a little bit about these teams because that's the exciting part, and that's what we're going out there to do is highlight these guys on both squads. The U.S. Coast Guard Academy, U.S. Merchant Marine, Kings Point. And let's start with Coast Guard. 7-1 so far. The one loss coming to University of England, the first game of the season. 92 points in one game, Seth, against your favorite.
My favorite team in the entire college football landscape, Nichols College.
Yep.
I think they've given up probably 1 million points, but yeah, that's the 92-point game.
But that is not, while it might have been the high for this Coast Guard offense, them scoring a lot of points, lighting up the scoreboard has been a constant throughout the entire year, much in part to Harrison Hensley, led the charge for them on the ground, almost 1,400 yards, 15 tuds for him in this Coast Guard offense alone. And there's a lot of really bright pieces to this offensive attack here, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, there's just guys everywhere that can just make plays. I mean, I'm really excited to watch this team. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, you can't talk about Coast Guard unless you talk about Sean Burns. Almost has 1,800 yards passing, 17 touchdowns on the year. Sophomore defensive lineman Will Adair has been on an absolute tear so far this season. Leads the team with 6 sacks. And, their head coach, I was learning a little bit about him as we were kind of prepping for not only this show, but for Fenway Park as well. He's actually been at Coast Guard for 27 years, but he's actually only been the head coach since 2020. But this is obviously easily his best year to date so far. He's actually the head baseball coach from 2007 to 2020.
Legendary.
But man, this is a freaking U.S. Coast Guard. I mean, are you kidding? And I think I can speak for all three of us at this point, and Kate as well. What an honor it's going to be to cover this game, and what an absolute unbelievable opportunity to cover this team in Merchant Marine Academy as well.
It is definitely going to be a privilege. Coast Guard, they've got a massive challenge this weekend. They're on the road at Springfield, who, as we know in the recent history, has kind of dominated the conference over there in the NAIA. Certainly last year had a very good run. But, these boys are going to Springfield next week. And then, of course, shipping up to Boston November 15th. That one will be on ESPN+, the noon kick against Merchant Marine. So definitely excited for that matchup. Going to be a big-time game. Merchant Marine, on the other side of things, Kings Point 5-3. They're running the ball very, very well. That seems to be one thing this offense can kind of hang their hat on so far in 2025.
Yeah, coming in with 254.3 rushing yards a game. Run the damn ball. Building their foundation of strength in his rushing attack, possession control, situational defense. Like, when you can run the ball, you can have those 7, 8, 9-minute drives. That gives your defense a lot of time to breathe and collect. And that's helping them out tremendously. They're only giving up 300 yards a game, under 300 yards a game, pardon me. Yeah, but they'll be tested to a great deal against that Coast Guard run game. And honestly, a very well-balanced offensive attack for that matter. They have a 1,000-plus yard rusher. They have a guy that's almost over 2,000 yards on the year as well. So this will be the defense will have their hands full, certainly.
And this one has been, I'm not going to say it's necessarily been super back and forth, so to speak. I will say Kings Point, they have kind of won it a lot in recent history. Coast Guard took the win a year ago, 42-21, but the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive meetings before that all went the way of Merchant Marine. So this one has had a lot of different sways. This, of course, the Secretaries Cup game has been one that's going on for a lot longer than just very recent history, the 45th installment of this incredible rivalry, boys. So I think it's pretty safe to say we're all just really pumped up and excited to get there.
That's for sure.
100%. Well, let's talk some other Division III football in terms of some recaps of the biggest games of the week, guys. We'll start things off in the WIAC. River Falls, our team of the week because of the performance that they had against Whitewater. 52-14, the Top Gun offense from Coach Matheson and company. They show up and show out in a big way against a top caliber conference foe. They snap a 22-game losing streak to Whitewater, the first win over the Warhawks for the Falcons since 2001. Which is the year I was born, for the record.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a lot to say about this, and it was a very emotional day for me, for alumni, for guys that are on that team, the coaches, and I think it's emotional not just because you snap a losing streak, but because of now where this program is at, and this is a collection of effort of a lot of people over the course of 14 years since Coach Walker took over. Coach Walker hadn't beat Whitewater up to this point in his career at River Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And, the thing about Coach Walker which is the reason why I even feel emotional about this win, is because if you're the dang fifth string kicker or you're Caleb Blaha breaking all these records, he makes you feel like you are 100% a part of that victory. And so if you played for him 10 years ago or you're a freshman, you feel like you had something to do with this, and he makes you feel that way. And that's just the culture that has just been created over all of these years. And it took a long time. I mean, they had 0-10 seasons. They had seasons where they were 2-8 and lost and were in every single game, but lost 8 of those games. And for me personally, man, it brought me to tears seeing those guys finally get over that Whitewater hump and beat these guys as handily as they did. And I can't say enough about Coach Matheson, Coach Wissing on defense, Coach Wood, who coaches their defensive back, Coach Emery, Coach Parker. I mean, I could go on and on about all of those coaches. I think one thing they've always done is they've been really good at being boring. And Coach Walker's talked about this before. Being boring, like it's doing the little things right over and over again. And I think one of the things that Coach Walker has said over and over again is do those little things right, be boring, like put the same gray shirt on with the same black shorts and show up to weights every single day. But here's the thing now, guess what? Like, as emotional as this game was, you still got to go out and play one of the best teams in the entire country this weekend.
No weeks off.
And this is a text that I had from Coach Walker, and he said, at the same time, as historic and as special as it was, as much emotion as I was having, it's been very businesslike and very crossed it off the list to get onto lacrosse feel for our guys. So, like, yes, it was emotional, made everybody cry, but man, it's time to flip that switch and get ready to go back to war, because it's time to go clinch that conference title, baby.
Yeah, the fact that they're in this seat right now is a very impressive one. You look at the way the trajectory of that team and that program changed and shifted last year after the Blaha injury, to see him back at the helm running this offense with the familiarity he has with it, and the rest of the incredible pieces. That defense has stepped up in very big ways along the way for this squad in 2025, and another team playing at a very incredible clip. Let's talk about the Blue Jays, man. Johns Hopkins, we know about North Central. We know about Mount Union. JHU has put themselves kind of, dare I say, in the same category. I think the poll has kind of reflected it as well. The Blue Jays, they pick up a big one. They stay perfect. 47-26 win over Muhlenberg this weekend, Jimmy.
Yeah, so I got a stat for you guys. In their last 55 regular season games in November, they're 50-5. So what that tells me is that when it comes down to crunch time and the games get really big at the end of the regular season, these guys are always ready to play. Nonetheless, they're 30-5 in their last 35 road games also. So they're getting it done on the road in a big way. Thanks to Jeff Schrader, 232 rushing yards in the victory over Muhlenberg. That is a career high and the most for a Johns Hopkins player since 2012. Bay Harvey also righted the ship with 109 rushing yards and 2 scores on the ground, 8 for 12 with 120 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air as well, the Cole Crotty. They ran for 356 yards this weekend.
My goodness.
Yeah. 356 yards. And this Muhlenberg team is scrappy. These guys are pretty good. And I mean, at one point it was a one-score game in the second half, and they're all like, "Ooh, is Muhlenberg going to pull this one off? Like, what's going on here?" And but Johns Hopkins is just they're on another level this year. Simply put, like they're having a hell of a season, and you got to give a lot of credit to that offensive line. We've talked about it all year how dominant this offensive line is, and it's the main reason why his run game is so great too. You got to talk about the boys up front.
100%.
They've always had good quarterback play too. I mean, you go back years and years and years. I mean, obviously Johns Hopkins, phenomenal institution. Couldn't have got into it myself, but like they just continue to push out these really smart, tough, talented quarterbacks.
Yeah, man, it's been one impressive win after another for them in the Centennial, and you look at the way they've been able to do it, too, kind of in a variety of ways. Maybe not, we talk about this, a lot of them have been kind of pretty buttoned up wire-to-wire wins. There's been some other ones where they've gotten punched in the mouth early on, and they've had to come back and struggle and scrap their way back into some of these games. But they are not one of the teams that have already clinched 3 of the 27 AQ's automatic bids into Division III football national playoff. These 3 teams, fellas, a couple of which maybe didn't expect them to clinch so early on. You would have thought maybe some of those top 15, top 10 teams would be on that list. Wartburg, of course, being the exception here. But Concordia, Wisconsin, Hanover, those 2 squads also grabbing bids to the national dance already.
Yeah, there's still a lot of ball that you still got to play, still a lot of automatic qualifiers still to be handed out. But, if you're one of these teams, Concordia, Wisconsin, Wartburg, or Hanover, you can't necessarily take a breath, but you can sure sleep easy at night not knowing that you're going to be in the dance now. With the American Rivers Conference, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen there. Who's going to get that, the at-large, that Pool C bid. It's really going to probably come down to Co and Central, which it obviously is, in Week 10, unless there's a team down there in Indianola that can play spoiler this week. I'm hoping so. But I'll be interested to see which one of those 2 teams comes out of the American Rivers Conference now that Wartburg's for sure sealed that thing up.
100%. You're looking at now a team in Hanover that went and beat Alma earlier, if I'm not mistaken, in the season. And that we honestly, depending on how things could shake out, we could see a rematch between them and the Scots in the first couple rounds of the playoffs. So that would be an interesting one, an interesting storyline for sure in our neck of the woods in the Midwest. Concordia, Wisconsin has gone on and dominated that conference in a year that Aurora's kind of been down and out. And then Wartburg, I mean, we kind of thought Wartburg might have a little bit of a down depending on how they handled some of the teams they were supposed to go out and beat by a large margin earlier in the season. But the calling card of this Wartburg Knights team has never been a high-powered explosive offense. It has been a gritty defense that you hate to see in November and December. So that is certainly living up to the billing if you're a Knights fan. And those teams have solidified their spot in the dance, fellas. A lot, like you said, though, a lot of football to be played, a lot more to be clinched. And then, of course, we get into MPI, the everyone's favorite number and metric when we get to determine the at-large bids, the Pool C, if you will, of D3 football.
It's got to be weird. It always is.
The NPI, let me tell you something.
Okay.
Let me tell you something about this NPI. It doesn't have North Central at number 1, so I don't believe in it, frankly. I know they don't play anybody.
Thank
whatever,
you.
But
they don't.
It is, in my mind, like, here's the thing. I'm a huge numbers guy. I love stats. If it doesn't have North Central at number 1, it's an illegitimate ranking, frankly.
The D3Football.com poll, I think, finally, quote unquote, finally, has shaped up, right? They got 25 first place votes.
They win 70-0 every game. Like, how do you not put them at number 1 unanimously?
Well, they don't. Again, they don't. I mean, and again, this is never a slight when I say this to North Central, but like, I wish I played North Park every week. Like, not a shot to North Park at all, but like, I do. I wish I played them every week, and nobody gets up in that league. So go schedule. But again, it doesn't matter with them. They're going to win that league, and so that's the point of the MPI. I think that makes it a little bit more interesting, and maybe a little bit better. Is that the teams that aren't going to win their league and win every game by 70 points now, like I do personally like it, especially when you add strength of schedule into there, because there's a league that needs to get at least 4 teams in there. Sometime, not sure when that's going to.
My take on it would be, you talk about strength of schedule, and I go back and look, and in North Central, they tried to supplement what is, to your point, not a very good strength of schedule inside a conference. They go and they beat Oshkosh 45-14 to start the year, and to me, maybe that result needs to be weighed a little bit heavier. Obviously, the Titans maybe not on top of the conference right now in the WIAC, but you go out in week 1 and you dominate against the top 25 program. That should be a part of the factor. And in North Central, of course, to play devil's advocate, they can't control what they play inside of the conference. What they can do is go out and schedule some quality opponents like an Oshkosh and take care of business. So that, to me, it feels like it should be weighed a little bit more heavily.
Yeah, I mean, if you're North Central, though, like, I'm not even sure why you would do it, because you're going to get the AQ. Of course, like, when it comes, and I keep remembering,
try to get home field, right? That would be the only thing that comes to mind right away.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that. Like, yes, of course, home field. And North Central's going to be pissed, like, if they don't get to play. Like, this is what's going to happen again. Like, they're going to go on the road twice.
Like, because it's happened the last couple. It's happened. You know what I mean? In very recent history.
Right. And
so,
yeah. And if you're a WIAC school and you win the WIAC, like, you're probably going to host. Like, if River Falls wins this week, like, you're probably going to host.
MPI is going to, it's going to break MPI.
It's going to be good, right? Yeah, of course.
100%. Well, we'll flip over now. Let's talk about our new friends and new partner at AthLinkd, which is a top transfer portal database tracking all levels of college football, even getting into some of the high school prospects and things, whether it is for coaches, scouts, or just fans of college football at all levels. AthLinkd is the newest partner of Division I Rejects. And fellas, we're talking tonight about some of the top transfers from Division III schools based on their API ranking inside of AthLinkd. We'll start things off with Jeremiah Jones, the DB out of Wittenberg. He was previously at South Florida. You talk about a guy with a massive frame, 6'2", 200 pounds. He officially entered the portal on October 27th, a very late entry into the portal. He did a lot of different things for this Wittenberg squad, guys. As a defensive back, he also had a rushing touchdown he's credited for against John Carroll. This is a guy that checks all the boxes when you talk about a higher level type of committed prospect from the D3 ranks, and he's got a lot of eligibility to boot. Quite a few years left for this guy at the college level. Certainly a lot of upside that schools are taking notice on in Jeremiah. And then to keep going down the list here, another guy that we have certainly been familiar with because of his production at the Division III level. Seth, what can you tell me about Tyler Adkins?
Yeah, Tyler Adkins, the quarterback from Aurora, officially entered the transfer portal on October 1st, which, man, his presence his absence has been felt, by this Aurora team since conference offensive player of the year. I mean, 5,200 career yards, 58 career touchdowns. I mean, that is an absurd number. Let's just be honest. That is an absurd number. He's also captain of this football team. And so, you know, whoever ends up landing this dude, I think they're getting a really, really solid football player.
You get some really odd departures this time of year, right? And I know
it's interesting. It's strange.
On social, it just unforeseen circumstances is what he had said. And now that can mean a million different things. But what it does mean is that there's a big-time playmaker. There's a big fish going into the pond right now. And there's going to be teams all over him, assuming after the year, obviously. That right now, I feel for these guys who maybe due to some of those unforeseen circumstances don't have a home to play right now. Guys who, like Jeremiah, like Tyler, obviously have the physical attributes. But, Jimmy, we got another one. We got a specialist to talk about. Tell me about Edwin.
Man by the name of Edwin Lopez, kicker from Mary Hardin Baylor. 13 for 17 on field goals with a long of 47, so he can make it from long range. Also has a punt this year of 67 yards for his long. I mean, guy does both. Jack of all trades with his foot. I mean, second team all conference kicker and punter. Come on, give the guy a shot. I mean, but like you said, like, I've always kind of wondered, like, what goes into these mid-year transfer portals. And originally I just think, like, oh, like, you guys are just, like, leaving their team. But there are definitely situations that we aren't aware of. And we're not in a place to, like, judge, like, oh, these guys left mid-year. Like, why?
Yeah.
It's not our business.
You don't know,
we
right?
don't
From
know.
an outsider perspective,
you have
no clue. Especially at the Division III level where there aren't scholarships tied into those decisions. It gets very interesting, I think.
As Ted Lasso said, as quoting Walt Whitman, be curious, not judgmental, fellas.
There you go.
Amen, brother.
There you go. You never know the whole story until you do. And on AthLinkd, you have the opportunity to go through and search these databases. We, of course, using this API ranking system here, you can also categorize recruits by a lot of different ways, including their star grade, their division projections. Fellas, you could see, hey, I wonder what guys that AthLinkd at least thinks using their database are going to stick around at the D3 level. Or how about the guys that are going to go play at a group of 5 5 or at FCS, maybe a Division II program based on different statistics. I can see their all-conference standing, how many snaps played, different accolades, links to their social media, searches to all types of different information on all those different respective players. So thank you to AthLinkd for being a partner of Division I Rejects, fellas. As we continue on, let's talk about some other big scores from around the country. Go back to the WIAC. UW Stevens Point, man. The Pointers potentially back in the conversation. They snap a 34-game conference losing streak. They beat Eau Claire 39-36.
Hey, the Pointers are so back. Snapping. Man, they lost 34 straight WIAC games, guys. Going back to November 2019, I saw the box score of the I was looking up WIAC scoreboard on Google. I was just looking. When I saw Eau Claire lost the point, first of all, I was elated. Frankly, I was so happy for those. Because listen, the Point gets a lot of crap from around the league, and to see them get a win, I'm like, hell yeah, man. Especially against Eau Claire, too. Like, come on. That's awesome. They got this $110 million facility. It's not helping them beat Point. I tell you that.
Wow, there it is.
Those Jimmy in-town tax dollars aren't helping out very much.
That Jimmy's funding it himself.
Right down the street from my house.
Jimmy Martin is funding the Eau Claire Dome as we speak. This was I was really surprised. Like, I thought Eau Claire was really doing this, but like, Point just, behind the scenes, they're winning in the dark. They're being boring. Like, they're doing the right things. And so, Eau Claire, man, this is not good for you. Like, I'll say that. Like, this is really bad for you. Like, this is a game that you almost should guarantee to win. Maybe go be a Stout or an Oshkosh, at some point. But Eau Claire, yeah, we got to go back to the drawing board. Like, this is you lost the toilet bowl in the WIAC. So
definitely
here we go.
A tough one for the Blue Golds there. But then you keep going over Hanover. We talked about them earlier on. They clinched the bid, the HCAC title, 48-0 win over Bluffton. It's actually the first title for the Panthers since 2019, boys. So it's been more than half a decade since they clinched that title. That is a big-time deal for that program. Like I said, Statement went out of conference over Alma earlier in the season. They've done some really good things inside of conference play as well. So those to me are some of the other big scores. Anything else you guys wanted to bring up?
No, man, it's definitely a great time to be a Division III football fan, analyst, whatever you want to call ourselves. But pretty chalky weekend for the most part. But man, the best of Division III college football is only yet to come, fellas.
Yep,
so
it certainly
much
is. And shout out those boys from Monmouth. I know we had Nate on the podcast earlier, but big time win over U Chicago. They are absolutely rolling.
Yeah.
Pretty good football team. Pretty good.
The Scots are doing it, man. But sweet, that's all we got for Division III. In terms of NAIA football, we got a bunch of big time games to talk about. A lot of best matchups, top teams in the country. But Matt, I wanted to lead with this, dude. You just posted your poll. Let's see. Hour or two ago. I think it was just about an hour ago. And you've got, for the first time this season, a new number one team in the poll, my friend. Friends coming in at number one for the man, Matt Schwarzler. Put him ahead Grandview. What was the difference? What was it about the FU football that's got the Falcons in front?
Look, man. So at some point in this season, I knew it was going to have to come to this if Friends kept playing like they had been. And it was at what point does the resume, margin of victory, and quality of schedule put them over the top of a team like Grandview, who, they are undefeated and having a fantastic season, but have had close games against Peru State and American Nazarene. And now, Graceland they handled, but certainly wasn't nearly the result they probably would have wanted, 21-10. And especially after what Friends did this week to a team receiving votes in the top 25.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good little segue there to start with that game, if that's all right with you. Because my goodness, 63-3 win over Kansas Wesleyan, not only solidifying first place in a very competitive KCAC Bissell division, but also really, in my eyes, making the case for the number one team in the country. Kansas Wesleyan, who's been pretty good most of the year, just had absolutely no answers for the Friends offense. Granted, not many teams have this season, but especially in this one, especially when Cavante Baker's going for 111 through the air on 2 passes, both for touchdowns. and 118 rushing yards for 3 rushing touchdowns in his own right. And the Friends defense, too, making some noise. Casey Lemon recording 2 picks. One of them was an 80-yard pick 6. I mean, when you look at this result, you look at the results earlier in the year against a ranked McPherson, against Evangel, against other really good opponents. This is the best team in the country right now, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way to put it. The resume shows it. The analytics show it. The eye test shows it. And it was just finally the tipping point for me, this game was, in putting them over the top at number 1.
And they played it in a very interesting environment too, right? Equity Bank Park, you're playing on a baseball field. Didn't matter, right? Baseball park, football field, they would have done it in a parking lot if that's what needed to happen. But this team has rolled, and like you said, they have, if there was any doubt in the first place, they've squashed it, and they have done so against some quality competition. This is not the case of a team that has rolled out and beaten everyone by 70, because the teams they're playing are, 70 points worse than them. They have gone out and earned it against teams that have proven themselves against really quality competition in the rest of the country. But I mean, I think it just took someone to finally put them over the edge, so to speak.
I'm hoping this is the start of a movement, because one day we're all going to be Friends Falcons, Kobe.
Yeah,
one day we're all going to be Friends Falcons.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it was just the last kind of piece fell for you, so to speak, in order to give them that spot, and they've certainly earned it, through every part of the way. Now, one game that maybe we didn't expect, not going to say the winner, because I think the team that came out on top that we picked and we kind of expected, but didn't expect it to go in this fashion. Indiana Wesleyan taking on Taylor, 56-48 final. A big part of that for this Trojans team having Hockett back in the lineup, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was big for Taylor to be able to hang in there against a very good Indiana Wesleyan team. But at the end of the day, Mr. Loathe for Indiana Wesleyan, who we've talked a lot about this season, having another fantastic day, 435 passing yards, 5 touchdowns and a pick, and also 3 interceptions from the Indiana Wesleyan defense. In a game like this, that's only an 8-point difference, going to make huge strides for you. Now, like you said, Damon Hockett's back in the fold for Taylor, something that's super interesting to watch, especially because it was a shoulder injury he was recovering from, and he wasn't throwing the ball all that much. When he did end up throwing an interception on the day, but they used him mostly in the run game. He did score a rushing touchdown. They brought him in on some option packages to get him comfortable, which I really liked. But at the end of the day, man, it was just Indiana Wesleyan barely able to edge out the Taylor Trojans. And don't let that 5-4 record deceive you for Taylor. They're a very, very good football team. It's just the mid-states this year has been kind of a slugfest, and they've been on the receiving end of that more times than they probably would have liked.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it was a really fun time all around. There was 1,144 yards of total offense in this game, 104 total points. There were 49 points scored alone in the second quarter. There was about 800 combined yards of total offense by halftime. Absolutely wild one to follow. And I think this kind of sets the tone for the rest of the games we're going to talk about. There was a lot of offense.
Yeah.
A good chunk of these this week, which is always fun to talk about.
Yeah, and the dynamic in the quarterback room is going to be an interesting one to take a look at moving forward. It was Alex Ambergy that threw the 2 touchdown passes for Taylor. It wasn't Hockett, like you had mentioned. And we had talked about his mobility when we built that quote-unquote perfect NAIA quarterback at the beginning of the season. His mobility and his ability with his legs was one of the talking points we put together in that hypothetical QB. We saw that on display, so it's going to be interesting to see how they keep him involved in any way, shape, or form. I can only imagine a guy like that in a competitor is like, I don't care how I'm on the field, but I need to be out there and making a difference in this team in any way. Even if when the opponents, when that Indiana Wesleyan defense sees him come on the field and they know he's taking the rock and running with it, he's still going to be a factor, whether or not his arm is a part of the equation. But yeah, again, it's tough to pull out moral victories, but a lot to be excited about, I guess, if you're a Taylor fan. But like you said, the 4 losses on the year means that any kind of postseason contention has kind of gone out the window.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I think there's still a lot to build off of, and there's no shame in taking a team that is as good as Indiana Wesleyan to the brink like this. And this is a good win for Indiana Wesleyan to get under their belt, especially as they push towards the postseason.
Now, Olivet Nazarene had been rolling as of late. That comes to a close. University of St. Francis, the Indiana version, the Cougars, they go in, they roll 30-22, a big-time win over that ONU squad.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with Olivet Nazarene the week before having a close game against Marion, who we all thought was, this was legit for Olivet Nazarene.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe feeling some of the fallout from a tough emotional game like that, especially with the way that St. Francis of Indiana was able to dominate the first little bit of the game, especially in that second quarter, putting up a bunch of points and then sealing it in the fourth for USF. Did a really good job. Kolka was back to his usual self alongside their running back Wallace. Through the air, Kolka went 25 for 35, 288, 2 touchdowns. And on the ground, Wallace went 17 carries, 136 yards at 2 touchdowns. And ultimately, again, turnovers make the difference for the losing team. 2 picks for Olivet Nazarene keeps their offense out of rhythm ultimately, and they can't end up getting just past the USF defense. Really good win for St. Francis, kind of propels them back into the playoff conversation for an at-large bid. It was looking a bit scary in the middle of the season there for them. But, they're back on it. And Olivet Nazarene now is in the spot where you've lost 2 in a row. You're going to have to get back on the horse, especially against the St. Xavier team next week, who we've been kind of alluding to being this sneaky team that could surprise some people in the mid-states. They're going to have to be ready to go.
Yeah, St. X receiving votes in the national poll right now, but this was a confusing one for me just because you go and look back at common opponents, and this is where things start to get really weird. And you talked about St. Francis just 2 weeks ago, 49-0 loss at the hands of Marion. And then you saw the Olivet Nazarene game, the way that played out against Marion, the way they brought them, really forced them to go all 4 quarters with them and pull out a pretty gritty 1-score win. Now, granted, that was at Olivet Nazarene, but you're talking about a 40-some point difference between those 2 games. And just, it's really hard to look at that and imagine that team that was beat 49-0 and was limited to such little offensive production came out and pulled off the unthinkable. But that's what's happened in a very short amount of time. It's one thing if that game and that score happened in week 0 or week 1, and it's another if it just happened 2 weeks ago. For something has happened drastically for the St. Francis squad and this offense in particular. We know Marion, the caliber of team that they are. Obviously, they're talking about a team that's flirting with like the top 5, right, in the country right now, that night squad. But I just, you go back and look at common opponents, you're like, I don't know if I could have ever necessarily seen this one coming, and that's more kudos to this Cougar squad, I think.
For sure. And I think this is a classic case of the transitive property of football not really applying for being a thing. It's so matchup dependent. It's so roster dependent. It's so style dependent. And week to week, so many things can change that, on paper, this was probably a game Olivet Nazarene people thought should have won. And I agree. They probably should have won this game just from how they're playing this year. But, St. Francis is the one that shows up ready to play, and they end up taking the win. And it's, like I said, it's a big one for them. Olivet Nazarene kind of knocked out of that playoff contention. It's big time. You have to be ready to go pretty much every single week when you're in a top 25 position like Olivet Nazarene was, and they weren't quite able to rebound.
And how about the dogs, McPherson, Jaleel Brown specifically, man? The offense had quite the explosion, but it really was in the offensive backfield, man. What can you tell me about his performance that landed him the KCAC Offensive Player of the Week and what probably will come to be some national recognition?
Yeah, Jaleel Brown is just crazy. And if they weren't in the same conference as the Friends Falcons and what they're able to do running the ball, this is probably far and away your national player of the year. I mean, he is putting out performances like this for McPherson consistently, and it tops out for him at 45 carries.
Come on.
Against Southwestern.
Come on.
Going for 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6.1 yards per carry. But on the other side of that, too, McPherson's quarterback, Mercarian, was ready to go and converted when they needed to. He went 10 for 18, 146, and 2 touchdowns. And receiver Lewis Joe for McPherson catching both those touchdowns on 6 receptions, 116, those 2 touchdowns. And ultimately, another high-scoring affair, like we talked about at the beginning of the show. The slow start from Southwestern in the first quarter is what ultimately keeps this out of reach for them. Southwestern drops in the poll after this loss, and they're kind of on the outside looking in on the playoff picture now. McPherson very much solidifying themselves for an at-large bid at this point, looking really good. But, man, Jaleel Brown, it's hard to imagine that this isn't a guy you see in the postseason absolutely dominating, being the main factor for a run for this McPherson team. The way he's been playing currently, if he can continue that way, McPherson's scary. Truthfully, I think the KCAC this year as a whole is underrated, and I think McPherson is a fantastic example of why you can't sleep on these teams.
Yeah, because it's hard when the measuring stick is the Falcons. That's what's really tough, right? And that's the tough part. And then also you have a conference that is beaten up on each other over the course of 2025, and it kind of muddies the water. And you have a team like McPherson that has separated themselves now, head and shoulders, from some of these other middle of the tier type teams in the conference. But and not to cast blame here, but just a little bit. I went to go find some stats on this matchup because this is one of the ones we previewed on Saturday. Went to go find stats on Saturday night. Went to go find stats on Sunday morning. No box score, no recap from either team, dude. It was nuts. I'm sitting here trying to find info about this thing, and I'm glad we got at least a box score up now. We can check some of this out, and then of course the live stream and such. But man, I was trying to go through and check out how some of these games panned out. Couldn't find anything.
Yeah, unfortunately in the NAIA, that's the way it goes sometimes. Shout out to my SIDs. It's a hard time of year right now, so I'm not going to give them too much.
That
grief,
is true.
But...
That is true. Cut a little slack, but a box score.
Yeah, for sure. No, I hear you. But yeah, it's just the way it goes sometimes, man. We eventually get it and get to talk about such an awesome contest. 53-40, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that was the final score. Just another absolute offensive showdown. Southwestern, obviously, in their own right, very efficient on offense. Very good team this season. But McPherson, man, they're having quite the year.
They certainly are. Let's talk about our team of the week, though, selection. A team that went out and pulled off a big-time upset, at least in the eyes of the national poll and the national kind of voters here. Bethel have been receiving votes in the national top 25. They go and upset number 16, Georgetown. 26-23 in overtime at home. That's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for Bethel, who we've had so many question marks about throughout the year, especially with the way their season started and forfeiting to Kaiser. And we weren't really sure what this team was going to look like in the crux of the Mid-South. And they're proving to be they're a force to be reckoned with, man. Especially, you start the game with a pick six to open the scoring up. Absolutely sets the tone for the rest of the game. Georgetown did surge in the third quarter, but Bethel closed it out ultimately to send it to overtime. And their kicker, Zachary Clutch. That's his name. I'm not kidding. Guy's name is Zachary Clutch. Went 2-on-2 for field goals with a long of 47, which you certainly don't see a lot of in the NAIA. 2 for 2 on extra points. Awesome. It's what gets it done in a game where points are at a premium. It goes into overtime. Ultimately, the offense for Bethel, who had been kind of struggling at certain points throughout the day, they put together 4 straight runs in their overtime possession to seal the win. But the Bethel defense showed out. I was really impressed. There were times in this game that Bethel looked like the team that they, not that we expected them to be this season per se, but what we've seen from them in the past and how good they can be on a national scale, especially when you're facing a team like Georgetown, who is having a good season in their own right. I was really impressed by this Bethel team, the way that they pulled this one out. And it doesn't get any easier for them because next week they got to go take on Campbellsville.
Yeah.
So another test for them, but certainly a good win to get under your belt to get some momentum, heading into that matchup.
And what's nice for them, you look in terms of Bethel right now, in the Mid-South, you look at the conference records of the top teams. And while Bethel right now is 4-3 on the season, they have the same in-conference record as Lindsey Wilson and as Campbellsville. All three of them sit, quote-unquote, atop the conference at 3-1. And so now you have the opportunity to go out and prove it against one of those teams that you are knotted up with right now. And those conference records are an important deal, man. They're a very important deal. And so now this Bethel squad seems to be trending certainly in the right direction. Even when your guy under center, Destin Chance, he's not been as efficient as we've come to expect him. 18 of 33 on the day. It's not a terrible clip. He didn't throw any interceptions, but he also didn't have a passing touchdown. And that to me is not something we've come to expect from him, how dynamic and what a great playmaker he's been in his career. But it's been up and down for him over the course of the season. What's really telling about this Bethel team, though, is even when your guy, so to speak, is not having his best day, he's not throwing his best stuff, I guess, you're still pulling out a victory. And again, they're taking care of the ball. The one interception actually came from Logan Miller. It was not from Destin Chance. So there's a random stat there for you.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting too that you mentioned that. The punter. Yeah, look,
Yeah.
gotta appreciate a punter pass attempt.
Until he throws it to someone wearing the wrong colored jersey.
Look, they don't get to throw the ball that often. It's confusing. I get it.
Fourth down quarterback.
Football's hard sometimes. All right. But truthfully, being able to pull out a win when your offense isn't performing, especially against Georgetown, who is known for having one of the best defenses in the country year in and year out.
Sure.
The way that you're able to gut it out and get a win like this is absolutely huge. And especially when Bethel, not only do they play Campbellsville next week, they close the season against Lindsey Wilson at home.
Yep.
You mentioned that conference record being tied with those two teams. If you win out, you get an automatic playoff bid. Like that is where they're sitting. So, for Bethel, it's season's coming down to 2 games here with that win.
Yeah, there's not a lot of teams that are 4-3 and still have everything in front of them when it comes to 2025. That's a wild proposition, to be honest.
Yeah, we see it sometimes in the NAIA, like the AAC with Reinhardt and Point and U-Pike and all those teams. Traditionally, they schedule these tough out-of-conference matchups because they, aren't afraid of those other teams. They end up losing a couple, going to conference play at 2-2. They end up getting a playoff spot. Just how it goes sometimes.
100%. Some other scores here from around the country. The trap game of 2025. Carroll, they go in Southern Oregon. 41-40 was the final. Carroll does survive, but how'd this get hairy there for that squad?
Yeah, so, Carroll scores late, and they're still down. So they go for what I believe was an onside kick. Onside kick gets picked up. Onside kick gets taken to the end zone by Southern Oregon. But that also means that Carroll gets the ball back, which means they have time to put together a drive and score and win the game. Look, man, I have never seen such a blatant defiance of the idea of frontier chaos in my life than this game. Basically giving the middle finger to this idea that, if you're a top 10, top 15 team and you're in the frontier, you're going to lose at some point.
Yep.
A win's a win.
A win is a win is a win is a win.
Any
way you can get it. And very much could also be said the same way for this Dordt team right now, right? They're still winning football games. They're not doing it in the fashion that I think anyone inside of that Defenders building is very happy about, especially this last week at Hastings, 31-26. Even a week ago, they got a true scare against Midland, getting out 17-14. And then, the last couple weeks maybe don't have the most confidence because this last couple weeks of the season for Dordt, you're going at home against Concordia, who's still receiving votes in the poll after a tough loss, and then you close out the year at Morningside. Oh, Dort's got a chance to go and clinch this thing outright and become GPAC champs in a year that maybe people expected them to be in the conversation, but not leading the conversation, not the topic of conversation, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really interesting the way that we've seen, while Dordt has played well and held serve and ultimately gotten the wins that they've had to, it's been more so the idea that everybody else behind them has kind of fallen along the way. Not necessarily Dordt being so dominant, but we saw them at the beginning portion of the season being really good. We've seen what they're capable of. I'm really curious to see how their matchup against Concordia goes, and especially Morningside the following week.
Yeah.
It's going to tell us a lot about this team heading into the postseason, assuming they win one of those 2 games and get in.
Last one standing, man. That's kind of how this rolls. And then you've got Cumberland and Cumberlands. Which one got it, dude?
It was Cumberland singular. It was really funny to see you guys on the live show this weekend.
It's also because, and again, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an expert on those 2 teams, but I've at least familiarized myself with them, and I understand that they are separate individual football teams. They both exist at the NAIA level. A couple of the guys on there, I love them, but they have no clue about anything NAIA football. They were having the time of their life, even pre-show. What is this game we're picking, Kobe? And I'm like, well, believe it or not, guys, these are some legit football teams that we have to talk about, and it's more than just a fun name matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, it proved so. It was another high-scoring overtime game that eventually Cumberland singular from Tennessee ends up winning. Cumberland's from Kentucky put together a 21-point comeback in the 4th quarter to send it to overtime, and unfortunately still lost to the Cumberland walk-off touchdown, 40-37. I got to say, that's a really unfortunate way to lose a game, but Cumberland's, man, they've been fighting all year long. I'm not surprised this game ended up being that close, but Cumberland, singular, who is receiving votes in the top 25, is basically team 26 in the coaches poll this week. They have pulled it together for a very solid season. I believe they're sitting at like 6-3 right now. Looking really good for them in a very top-heavy Mid-South.
And the fact that you keep moving on here, that Northwestern is back in the top 25 is astounding. It just shows you the rebound kind of season that they're having right now and how they've resurrected quite literally their year, especially with that Morningside win. They stopped Midland in overtime, 23-17, and it was a tough one all the way to overtime, of course, but stuffing at the goal line, man. Northwestern has been tougher than their opposition along the way. I want to talk about D-Dub, though, Dakota Wesleyan, the touchdown in overtime. Tell me about this one, and then, of course, tell me about the defensive performance from Cody Winslow. I got the photo pulled up, dude. Absolute football guy in the hospital bed with one of the coolest trophies in college football, the GPAC Player of the Week. That is just like epitome of football guy.
Yeah, and Cody Winslow, he's a guy I played with. He was a freshman when I was playing there as a senior. Okay. So that's my guy. Wearing number 40, just like a big hoss before him right
Hell
here.
Yeah. Coming from another number 40, love that.
Yep. It was a really good time, but Cody Winslow probably had one of the most dominant defensive line performances I've seen from a Dakota Wesleyan player in a very, very, very long time. I mean, 7 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, a blocked extra point, a forced fumble, which, while he didn't house it, does get taken back for a touchdown in a crucial game against Mount Marty, rivalry game. And I mean, this ends up being 44-41. If we don't get that scoop and score, I mean, there's a chance they lose that game.
Yeah.
So Cody Winslow obviously had a monster of a day. Unfortunately, he had to leave early due to a leg injury, and it was pretty gnarly. I've seen the X-ray. That tibia fibia is not in good shape. But man, you want to talk about a gutsy effort from Cody to get it done. And clearly, like, the rest of the team rallied around him. They got him because ended up pulling out the win for Dakota Wesleyan. It goes to overtime after Mount Marty comes back from a couple scores down in the fourth quarter. A Mount Marty field goal gives the Lancers the lead. And then on the second play of the drive, a beautiful pass to Stephen Christian from backup quarterback Connor Drake is what seals the victory. Backup quarterback Connor Drake, who was also GPAC Player of the Week with 402 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Mind you, as the backup to Jed Jensen, who is out with a concussion, who won GPAC Player of the Week before. So certainly a good problem to have when you have multiple quarterbacks winning awards like that.
The 2 QB system has been way more prevalent this year than in years past. I think at all levels of football, it's becoming a little bit more widely accepted. The old adage of if you got 2 quarterbacks, you have none, I think has never been more wrong. And then in today's age, you've seen teams get along with it, man. Is there anything we can say about our boy Cody here in terms of successful surgery or doing all right? Have you heard any word, anything you can share publicly?
Yeah, from what I know, he got surgery. Like, he went to the hospital, got surgery. He's all good. Everything went according to plan. He's in good shape. He's in as good health as he can be in, and he's in good spirits. It seems like the team is, reaching out to him. I got the chance to talk to him earlier today. He's doing well. He's in a good headspace. So our buddy Cody's hanging in there strong, and your efforts were not in vain, my friends. Dakota Wesleyan gets it done, 44-41.
And that's a game, too. I know I previewed it a little bit on the show. Now I think that makes it 5 overtime periods in the last 3 meetings between these 2 teams. That's nuts.
Yeah, 3rd straight overtime finish for them. So these teams, this is an instant classic pretty much anytime these 2 teams line up. So it's a really fun rivalry to be a part of. And I'll tell you what, man, it feels really good for the Tigers to be on the winning side of it as a biased observer here.
Yes, yeah, very biased. Now we've got a big slate coming up. I'm going to challenge you here, Matt. Give me, out of the games coming up, you got the list, give me your 3 games that you're most interested to see the result in terms of really don't know which way either of them could go, those matchups for this coming weekend. Give me your top 3.
College of Idaho is really intriguing in this matchup to me, especially coming off of the 28-7 win against Arizona Christian. Blackout, might add, for Military Appreciation Day. Pretty sick.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this is the end all be all for this side of the frontier. Winner of this game more than likely gets an automatic bid to the playoff, barring some crazy results. And I got to admit, the way College Vito has kind of snuck up on us this year, and the way Carroll, honestly, too, has snuck up on this year, whichever team gets the nod here and wins this game is going to be pretty scary heading into the playoff.
Yep. Yeah, and earning, potentially the right to play some games in their home field as well, which is a big deal.
Absolutely.
What other two matchups you got your eye on?
Ottawa, Arizona, number 12, taking on Texas Wesleyan on the road down there in Dallas-Fort Worth, 24th ranked Texas Wesleyan. This one's really intriguing to me because depending on the result, we'll see how the national committee feels about the Sooner Conference, Sooner Athletic Conference, especially because if Texas Wesleyan pulls this one off, you have to consider a one-loss Ottawa, Arizona team as an at-large bid. And Ottawa this year has been absolutely rolling. Not quite to the level we've talked about, friends, but pretty close. They're beating all of their opponents pretty soundly. Now, granted, the middle of the pack in the Sooners probably weaker than we've seen it in years prior, but Ottawa, Arizona is still getting it done off the back of their defense, which is something that's very rare for them. We usually talk about their offense, but their defense is what's winning them a lot of games this year. And obviously against a very good Texas Wesleyan team who's been kind of surging in the late part of the year. It's not only for a playoff bid, not only for the top spot in the Sooner, but nationally, where do these teams stack up? I think we'll learn a lot about both of them in this one.
And then your last highlight is that Kaiser Southeastern, Benedictine Baker, maybe that Campbellsville Bethel game we talked a little bit about. What jumps out?
It's actually none of those. While those are interesting, I got my eyes on 9th ranked Lindsey Wilson taking on receiving votes Cumberland.
Okay.
This matchup on paper, since Cumberland has shown themselves as a legit competitor in the Mid-South, I've kind of had this matchup circled all season long just because I'm really curious to see how Lindsey Wilson handles the triple option that Cumberland runs and how they run the ball and how they operate. I think it's a really intriguing style matchup, and I think Cumberland also just plays a lot of these top teams close. Truthfully, they play everybody close, which is why I'm really intrigued, and especially if Cumberland pulls off the upset, there's going to be chaos in the Mid-South. I will tell you what.
Yes.
So I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah, certainly would be an upset in all ways of the word, but this Lindsey Wilson team is not untouchable. Campbellsville showed us that just a few weeks ago, and although they did kind of have their way with Cumberland's, even prior to that 62-13 win back in early October, you never know. You never know. Cumberland does have to go on the road for this one, too. So this would be one of the more impressive wins of the season. I think that's not sure.
For sure. Yep, absolutely. But
like you said, the style matchup can account for a lot of that difference.
There's something to be said if you can drag a team down in the mud with you, if you play that style of football. Mm-hmm. I always talk about it when I watch like the Iowas of the world play. Yeah. It's like sometimes you just get drugged down in the mud and you're stuck and you're moving slow and you just got to fight your way out.
As Dan Campbell says, you drag them down to the deep end with us.
Mm-hmm. Bite some kneecaps on the way.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, you bet.